We're talking about self-love today, so I bought some brand new shoes and wore them today, and they are killing my feet. So I am loving myself enough to be up here barefoot for a little while, yes. Where it's like, I'm not going to suffer, sorry. Yeah, because we are not about suffering, are we? No, there. Okay, so how many of you know that the Bible is the basic text of unity? Yeah, a lot of people may not know that's actually our basic text. Now, I want to tell you that we look at the Bible differently than mainstream Christianity. We see the Bible as the evolution of our consciousness. The Old Testament represents our old consciousness, where we're in that place of separation and fear and judgment and lack and condemnation and conditional love. And then the New Testament is representative of this new consciousness. And of course, that's where we move into that place of oneness and unconditional love and possibility and power and abundance and joy. Now, Moses came down from Mount Sinai, and he brought us the commandments. And there's actually 10 thou shalt nots, but then there's also 2 thou shalts. And then in the Old Testament, there's a lot of other things, a lot of other rules that are quite interesting for us to follow. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah, if you're familiar with that. So that was typical of our old consciousness, that consciousness that felt that we had to do things a certain way in order to earn the favor of God. And if I fell short of that, then I was unworthy. So in our old consciousness, there's all these rules and these ideas that we're trying to live up to in order to be loved, in order to feel that we're okay, in order to feel that we're worthy. Can anybody relate to any of that? Yeah, okay. Jesus comes along. We see Jesus as our master teacher, as the master metaphysician. So Jesus comes along and he tells a very different story, doesn't he? And Jesus talks about oneness. He said, the Father and I are one. He talks about power. He said, all the things that I've done, you can do those things, and even more than that. He talks about possibilities, that with and through God, all things are possible. He talks about joy. He said that I came that my joy may be in you, that your joy may be full. He talks about abundance. I came that you may have life and you may have it abundantly. And of course, Jesus was all about love. Now, there was a point at which they were trying to trick him. Well, there were many points of that. And they asked him, what is the greatest commandment? And he was just so smart, they could never really trick him into things. But he said, it is love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. And the second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. Now, the thing I love about these commandments are that he says, love the Lord your God, but he says how to do it. So he says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the way that you do that, because the second is like unto it, is by loving your neighbor as yourself. So who does he put first here? You. You have to, well, God, yes. But we are that. And so it's really about coming back to this place of really celebrating and honoring and loving this beingness, not this one, but your own beingness. Act as though these hands are yours and they're in front of you. Loving and honoring this beingness that is shown up here at this particular moment in time on this planet. You are here and you are important and you matter. And the idea today is to help us let go of some of those things that have stood in the way of us really embracing, like we sang about, our magnificence, our beauty, our power, our goodness, really embracing that and our love and expressing that out in the world around us. So when I counsel quite a bit. I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I read a lot. And everything seems to come down to when it comes to problems in our life is a lack of self-worth and a lack of self-love. There were a few quotes that I love. The most worthwhile goal you can ever set for yourself is one of self-love and self-acceptance. Oscar Wilde said, I love this, to love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. Just makes me want to hug myself, you know? And the definition of self-love is a regard for one's own well-being and happiness, chiefly considered as a desirable rather than narcissistic characteristics. And the problem that we've had is that most of us were raised with that idea that, and it's not a bad idea, it just went to an extreme. You know, it's better to give than to receive. You should always be putting others before you. But it's gotten to such a point that we've moved away from this aspect of our beingness. How many of us are overgivers? Anybody here it's an overgiver? Yeah. So, yeah, we're going to talk about that today. So I have shared before that in 1994, I was going through a lot of turmoil in my life, and I recognized that what I lacked was a true sense of self-love and of self-worth. And so I literally dedicated the year 1995 as the year of learning to love myself. And the really cool thing about that was that I was working someplace else, but on February 14th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the day of love, I started my job right here at Unity of Springfield as the secretary. Isn't that cool? How apropos was that? And it has been these teachings, it has been this journey, and more teachings because we embrace so much, but that have brought me to the place that I am today. And I can tell you that I'm like, 170 degrees from where I used to be in the realm of my own self-love and my self-worth and my self-acceptance. So I'm going to share with you what some of the symptoms are of a lack of self-love and a lack of self-worth, and let's see if you relate to any of these. Judging people unrighteously, getting our feelings hurt easily, complaining and gossiping, making others wrong in order to feel better about ourselves, fear about doing things, not putting ourselves in a position where we could possibly fail because, oh my gosh, people would know that we possibly failed. Not voicing our opinions for fear of being made fun of or for fear of somebody getting mad. Thinking it's better to play small than ever be really good at something, and heaven forbid that we might actually outshine somebody else in our family or in our friendship circle. Often giving up what we really need in order to please another person. Anybody ever do that? How about saying yes when you really want to say no? Anybody ever do that? Not setting healthy boundaries. That's a symptom of a lack of self-love and self-worth. Not trusting that we can really have great good in our lives. Easily settling, which oftentimes shows up as staying in a relationship too long, staying in a job that is just killing us too long, things like that. How about negative self-talk? Putting ourselves down. Why did I do that? I'm so stupid. How could I have let that happen? How did I not see the signs? Taking ourselves too seriously and not being able to laugh at ourselves. I got to say that my mom I have 3 siblings, and she gave the 4 of us the greatest gift of laughing at ourselves because she laughed at herself all the time. No matter what she did, she would just laugh. And that really has made a difference in our lives. How about a refusal to do the things that we know are really good for us and would help lift us because we just don't feel motivated to do them? Things like reading inspirational things or exercising, reading just a good old novel, relaxing, getting a massage, and how about focusing on what other people are thinking about us? Anybody ever focus on that? And what's that saying? Something like, if you only knew how little people thought about you, you wouldn't worry about it so much. And it's really true, because when we do something, we think, oh my gosh, that's all they're thinking about. They're off in their lives. They're not even thinking about it. W.H. Auden said, "The image of myself, which I try to create in my own mind in order that I may love myself, is very different from the image which I try to create in the minds of others in order that they may love me." So we try to be something in order for people to love us. How's that been working? Not so much, because there's billions of people on the planet, and you can't possibly please everybody, can you? How many of us have learned that finally, that we can't possibly please everybody? How many of us are still learning it? Okay, and if you like to control things, if you are a controller, you have to control people, control situations, you guys, that comes from a lack of self-love and a lack of self-worth. And the thing about these things is that most of them started somewhere in our childhood. Somewhere along the way, we got these messages about ourselves and about the nature of life, about what we deserved, and we carried these messages into our young adulthood and into our mature adulthood. And because there's the law of attraction at play here, we have attracted into our lives relationships and jobs and all kinds of things that told us that, yes, that's what you deserve, right? How many of us can look at some of the relationships in our lives and recognize, wow, I attracted that because of my low self-image, self-esteem. I loved this quote that says, "The only toxic relationship I ever had is the one I had with myself. Everyone else was just a reflection of that." And I'm going to tell you, when you can get to this place, that is a powerful place to be. Because you're no longer in a victim mode. You're no longer pointing a finger and blaming someone else for your life experience and what has happened and how it turned up. You're taking ownership and recognizing there was something in me that allowed this person or this experience in my life, and I want to heal that. So it's an incredibly powerful place to be. So how do we change all this? Well, the first is always awareness. We want to become aware that we're even in any of these things so that we can start changing those things. Recognize that the relationship that you have with yourself is the central relationship in your life. Hear that. The relationship that you have with yourself is the central relationship that you have in your life. Now, we always talk about our relationship with God, with Spirit, but this is what this is. This is what this is about. And I also want to say that there's a distinction between you and your essential self, in the sense that we really want to start bringing more of that essential self through our personality, through our persona. The you that we're kind of focusing on today is the personality, is the persona, is all of these ideas that we have taken on that we are ready to let them go, right? It's a burden to carry a lot of these ideas and beliefs around with us. So we want to let these go. So I found a blog on the internet by Cherie Carter Scott, and she's done tons of workshops on personal growth. She's worked with thousands of people who want to have like a good relationship in their life. So she's focusing on that partnership relationship, but I want to tell you that what I'm sharing with you today is about any relationship that we have in our lives. So she said she starts out by asking the people who are there to describe in detail how this person they seek would treat them, and how they would feel around this partner and how they would ideally want to relate. So she said, sometimes, there's different answers, but in a nutshell, these are the main answers that come up. Most say they want someone who is kind and considerate and loving, yes. Someone who will treat them with respect and mutual admiration, who will listen. Don't you want people in your life to be able to listen to you? Yes? Yes? Just want to make sure you're with me, okay. They want people who will celebrate their successes with them, and also want people in their lives that will be there in a very loving and kind, supportive way when life gets tough. And they want people who they feel connected to, that they really feel connected in their heart and their mind and their soul, who they can be authentic with. And so the next question that she asked them is this: how many of these behaviors do you extend to yourself? And she said that almost without question, people are sheepishly like, not many of them. And here's the thing, you guys, if we're not giving that to ourselves, if we're not honoring and loving and valuing and celebrating us, we cannot expect other people to honor and love and celebrate us. We just can't expect that. So that's why this is such an important topic today, this journey of self-love, this journey of self-worth. Now, our tendency is to be critical of our flaws, to put our needs second, to take for granted our positive attributes and our accomplishments, and really not to dedicate a whole lot of time connecting to ourselves, really connecting to ourselves. So she says that at its core, sorry, I'm going back. I got my slides mixed up today. At its core, loving yourself simply means believing in your own essential worthiness. So let's take a moment to say, I am worthy. Yes, you are. It is nurturing a healthy sense of positive self-regard and knowing that you are a valuable link in the universal chain. And we forget this. And I think we especially forget it because with everything happening all around us, we have this sense of powerlessness in what can I do? I'm only one person. What can I do? But this is what this is about. Owning that you are a valuable link in the universal chain, that you matter. You are that important, and you matter. And how you show up and what you give out, it is affecting the whole. Whether you see it or not, it is happening. It is absolutely happening. Loving yourself also means actively caring for every facet of yourself. It shows up in every action you take, from putting on a sweater to protect yourself from a chill, to leaving your job that does not fulfill you. It means tuning into your own wants and needs and honoring them the exact same way you want someone else to do. So an example that I would give of this is that last night I had a really hard night. On occasion I get migraines, and I had a migraine last night that kept me up for hours. And I did not wake up feeling good this morning. And we have a meeting this afternoon. There's 5 of us that were supposed to get together this afternoon. And I just sat with that and realized the most loving thing that I can do for myself is to let everybody know I can't do that meeting today, that I need to go home and I need to take care of myself. And the really great thing is that I've attracted such wonderful people in my life that they were just all like, of course, and we'll do the meeting another time. But it's that my old self would have said, push on, you got to be there no matter what. But this self that is learning to honor and love what my needs are, helped me to make a healthier decision, literally a healthier decision today. So what we know is not everybody has grown up with this sense of self-love and self-worth. Yes, I'm in awe when I hear people say, I was in this teaching all my life, and so I've always had this. I think that is so wonderful. But the reality is that we tend to look around and we tend to think that other people have it all together. And I'm going to tell you, comparison in that sense is our worst enemy, because we think, man, look at them. They're always making good choices for themselves. They got it all together. And the reality is that almost everyone feels insufficient in some area of their life. Is there anybody here today who feels insufficient in some area of your life? Okay, look around, and pretty much everybody raised their hand. So loving ourselves is the best way that we can learn how, obviously not only to love ourselves, but how we can learn how to love our neighbor then. I do want to make a distinction here too, Because there's self-esteem, and then there's this unconditional self-love and unconditional self-worth. Self-esteem is distinct from that in that self-esteem comes from things outside of us. So self-esteem has to do with the job that we have, or the amount of money that we make, or the car that we drive, or the house that we have. And we can bolster our self-esteem by deciding that we're going to, get something more or do something more. It was interesting. I was reading some people's experiences of this journey of self-love, and this one young man said he was into his self-esteem. And so he went to work for a billionaire, and he said, he thought that this was his dream job, that he was going to get to work for this billionaire, he was going to get to kind of live the life of that. And what happened was that his time was no longer his time, that he was on call 24/7. And he realized one day that he was just, depleting his own resources. And he said, I recognize that that I had to make the journey of self-love in order to have my self-esteem healthy, where I was not putting that outside of myself. And I loved that. Okay, so if you're like anybody else, we kind of put this idea of complete unconditional self-love off until maybe I lose so many pounds, or maybe I get a degree, or maybe I've run my first marathon, or I get this particular job. And so we think that we can't really fully love ourselves, or we think we are not really worthy until we do these things, correct? I mean, yes? So let's look at some of the things, that do get in our way, and it's really kind of what I said. I will love myself when I'm thinner. I will love myself when I stop messing up so much. I will love myself when I'm no longer insecure. I will love myself when I quit procrastinating. I will love myself when I get my garden looking the way that I want my garden to look. And so would you say to your child, to your best friend, to your partner, I can't love you until you lose weight. I can't really love you until you learn to keep the house clean on a regular basis. I can't really love you until you're making this much money a year. Would you ever say those things to somebody that you loved? No. And so why do we say those things to ourselves? Why do we put those limits on ourselves? And have you ever had the experience where you could tell that somebody was really struggling, and you were present to them, and you complimented them, and you saw their entire beingness change in the moments that you were lifting them up? And that's the idea here, is that this isn't going to be an overnight process. I didn't learn to love myself in 1995. I learned to love myself over these many years. But the more that we make the decision to be kind and to be loving and to own our worth, to get to the place where we can look in the mirror and we can say, man, I love that crooked smile that I have, or I love that receding hairline that I have, or whatever it is, that we can start really loving us. And as we do that, as we get to that place where we can unconditionally love and accept ourselves, that is when we're going to be able to follow the second part of that commandment. And that is when we're going to be able to truly love our neighbors. But it starts right here with us. So here's some ideas for us. These are just ideas. Scheduling time. Practice radical self-acceptance. Let's do that one first, because we get so many messages that we're not okay just as we are. So this is about focusing on what you love about yourself, what you like about yourself. Through this radical self-acceptance, you start giving yourself what it is that you've been seeking from other people. And how many of us have an inner critic? I'm thinking probably all of us haven't. You have 2 inner critics. Some of us have many inner critics, right? And Karen Drucker has a great song, about I am taming my inner critic. She's not welcome here anymore. I'm taming my inner critic. And it's something about get out the door. And the idea here is when that inner critic comes up, just stop and just go, excuse me. But use the THINK acronym. Is what you're saying to me true? Is it helpful? Is it important? Is it necessary? And is it kind? And if it's your inner critic, it's not going to be those things, is it? And so you tell it to get out. You have no space in my head anymore. Get out. Because I know my value and I know my worth. And I know that I am worthy. I know that I am here to be the beloved, here to be loved and to be loved. I know the truth about me. The second thing is schedule time for artistic and spiritually uplifting activities. This is things like go to the park and have a picnic. Maybe you want to create some art. Go get some supplies and create some art that's just you. It doesn't have to be like, you're going to sell the art. You could, but just an expression of yourself, or taking a walk or going on a bike ride. I've always loved this, enjoy the finer things in life. Irma Bombeck always talked about that. How many of us, and probably more my generation, had those candles that were like shaved and carved, and then some were shaped like roses? We never burned the candles because it would ruin the candles. So what happened? They sat around and they got dusty and dirty and ugly. Or they might have gone up in the attic and they melted. So use your stuff, enjoy the finer things in life, and enlighten yourself. Learn about yoga, learn about meditation, give yourself a break. And this is really about how many of us ever make mistakes. Give yourself a break. Don't beat yourself up for it. You fall down, you get back up, you dust yourself off, and you start over again. But give yourself a break, just like you would give a loved one a break. And then forgive yourself. And this is a huge one, because we all carry these burdens of things that we've done in the past, and we feel this guilt and this shame. If you have the opportunity to make amends to somebody, I encourage you to think about doing that. If you don't have that opportunity, write a letter of just what it is that you feel, and then burn the letter. Just as the idea is, just get this outside of yourself and forgive yourself, because whether you believe it or not, you did the best that you could with where you were at that particular time. And when you know better, you do better, right? And that's really, this journey is about that. It's about that unfoldment. So my main thing today is reminding you that you are unique, unrepeatable expressions of God, and that's important. You're unlike any other creation. And thank God that we are not like each other, right? Because we need this diversity. We embrace this diversity. You are amazing and magnificent and fabulous, just as you are. And so I'm going to invite you to say with me, I am amazing, magnificent, and fabulous, just as I am. Together, I am amazing, magnificent, and fabulous, just as I am. And the last one, it's going to be 3 for us, if you would like to repeat with me, is I am enough. I am so enough. It's crazy how enough I am. And you are, and I say to you,